This is my reef keeping journey and my story of how it all began. Welcome back, reefers. Today I wanted to talk about my journey into reef keeping and how it all got started. For me, reef keeping began many years ago back in high school. I had an oceanography class, and it seemed to be the one thing that really stuck with me. I was intrigued. We had our own aquarium inside the classroom that we had to maintenance and work on, and we learned by hands-on, working with this aquarium. And I really loved the class. So as of today, I am not new to reef keeping or keeping saltwater aquariums. I've had a fish-only saltwater aquarium on and off probably, maybe 10 years out of high school. I got into it when I could eventually afford to do it. And reef keeping, I've been keeping reefs now probably a little over 10 years. And it's the one thing that I'm actually pretty good at. So it's my outlet when I come home from work. I come downstairs, look at the aquarium. If I had a bad day or what have you, it's there. And it takes my mind completely off of, anything that's happened during the day, or just my chance to unwind. So let's talk about when I started keeping corals. I got my 180 gallon behind me, and all your basic equipment. I fell victim for so many products that I ended up in time realizing that I never even needed. And but they worked at the time. It was just a matter of I would buy this thing and okay, well, that's not doing the job well enough, so now I need to buy this thing, and so on. It just kept, a big downward spiral. So I was getting some corals here and there, and basically just watching them, see how they were growing, if they were going to do well. I had some that, they kind of would go in the tank and they would thrive, and then I would get a couple other types of coral and they would go in the tank, and within a few days they would bleach out. And I just associated that, after time went on, that, well, maybe these are just corals that just don't do well in my system. I wrote it off, and after time, I just started acquiring them. I had so many corals, my display was looking great. I was loving it, and that eventually just turned into an addiction. I was constantly online. I was checking eBay, Cornbread's auctions, Worldwide Corals auctions, and then going on Jason Fox, and I was just buying nonstop corals. And the tank really started to look beautiful at one time. I never got into buying all the high-end SPS corals because I was always in fear of them bleaching out. You pay $400, $500, $600 for a piece of Acropora, stick it in your tank, a week later it bleaches out. And of course that's all on the aquarium keeper. If your parameters aren't up to par, of course they're going to bleach out. But I was just always afraid. I didn't want to just take that plunge. So I had some easy to keep SPS and a lot of LPS. LPS seemed to do really good for me. And then, of course, the Zoas and the Pallies. I fell victim for so many of the high-end, fancy-named Zoas and Pallies that I was really getting a lot of them. And eventually, they were thriving and doing really well. So, you know, one polyp would turn to two, two would turn to four. As soon as I'd have 4 polyps, I'd frag it. I'd have 2 frags now of 2 polyps, and when those 2 turned to 4, I would just do it again. Eventually, I had probably over 150 different strains, varieties of zoas and pallies, and I kind of lost, you know, my way as far as, you know, the hobby went, you know, because then now I had all of these frags of zoas and pallies and everything, and I would go to local frag swaps for the ones that I did want to get rid of. Like I said, I didn't want to really let go of my corals, but the ones that I would, just to make, you know, a couple of bucks here and there, you know, to put back into salt or test kits, whatever I needed for the aquarium, you know, you go to a frag swap and you know, you pay $300 for this particular zoa or pally, you know, and then you go to a frag swap and people don't want to give you any more than 50 bucks. I kind of essentially just figured, you know, it really wasn't worth it anymore. As far as trying to keep up with all that, the high end, you know, fancy named corals, you know, I kind of learned my lesson the hard way. Then it happened. We went away for a weekend, came back that Sunday evening. I went downstairs, check out the aquarium, to find out that it crashed. Needless to say, I was devastated. I lost everything. You know, all the fish, all the corals, and because I took the cheap way of building all the frag tanks and putting them into my main system, I lost all of those corals too. So essentially all the corals that I was hoarding, I lost. I wanted to give up. Wanted to sell everything that I had. Kind of got out of the hobby. I didn't sell it, but got out of the hobby for a little while. Just didn't do nothing with it. You know, tank sat empty. And for about a year. And then my wife, you know, I thought about it, and my wife and my kids, they said, you know, not to give up. You know, it's something I really enjoyed. So with that, the light bulb went off. And I said, okay, well, I sat down with the wife, discussed it, and said, well, if I'm gonna do it this time, you know, it's gotta be bigger, it's gotta be better. Not essentially the tank size, but everything I was going to do from that point forward, I was gonna have to do the right way. You know, instead of finding the cheap alternative, you know, building my own sump or anything like that, you know, I would just buy the best top of the line equipment I could this time. It would just set me up for more success this time around. Now, I don't know what caused the crash. To this day, I still don't know. There were times though, I don't want to say, well, I guess I could, probably neglect of the aquarium, and it wasn't so much neglect on laziness. If there's one thing you can take away from this video, that is, if you look at your aquarium and your reef, and you look at your corals and you see that, you know, they look good, everything looks great. But whatever you do, don't think, okay, I don't need to test, or, you know, I don't need to do a water change or any kind of maintenance, because, well, why? You know, the tank looks great. You know, there's nothing that I need to do. Everybody's happy. Now, in time, could that have played the absolute part of the crash? Absolutely. I'm sure it had something to do with it, you know, and So, you know, one thing I can say is, you know, just keep up with your testing, you know what I mean? Get in that habit. Don't get lax on it. I mean, you know, there's guys that, you know, once you cycle your tank, you know, they don't even check for ammonia anymore. I've been pretty stringent now, you know, after all the money that was wasted the last time around, you know, once a week, you know, I want to check my ammonia. You know, my nitrates, they get tested, you know, every couple of days, but nitrites, I really don't test anymore. But ammonia, you know, at least once a week. If anything, it lets you know, can I put another fish in? Well, I took that ammonia test and it's saying that, you know, my ammonia is up a little bit. So don't add that fish. You know, it's just going to increase the ammonia even more. Which essentially, you know, is just telling you that you don't have enough bacteria. You know, there's not enough beneficial bacteria to consume that ammonia. So, if anything, just keep up with your testing. I think that what I want to do is I want to have a 2-part series to this, because I don't want this to be an hour long or half-hour long video. You know, I understand everybody has things to do. You know, I don't want to have you sit down and watch a whole video, you know, 30 minutes, an hour, or what have you. You know, a lot of people have more important things to do, like, I don't know, testing your aquarium. So this video is going to be broken down into a 2-part series. This being the first series of the past, and then the second video will be about the new build, the progress, you know, the demolition of the fish room behind the aquarium behind me, you know, the building of the new workbench, you know, a lot of photos so you can see what we did to make this system, which I hope to be the best system I've ever had. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you for taking your time to watch this video, and we'll see you on the next one.